gosh. Okay, all right, all right. Do you want your questions asked or not? Thank you. Okay, so Joe, here's a question from the audience. Joe McGinniss, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Seatbelt?
Seatbelt.
Are you focusing on the changes you're seeing in Alaska and Alaskans since going to extremes in your new book?
To a degree. One of the changes that I noticed is that only recently Alaska had a woman governor. And that was something that wouldn't have happened back in the mid-'70s. So I think that fact, she was actually one paragraph in my original 20-page proposal, which was to go back out here and write a book about the way Alaska is now as it enters its second 50 years of statehood. And at that time, it was a minor curiosity that there was a woman who was the governor. And before I could even make an arrangement with the publisher to do that book, John McCain intervened, and it became impossible to even conceive of writing a book about Alaska today without putting the former governor close to the center of it. So, you know,
so you were trying.
The new book is a book about Sarah Palin. That's what I'm working on. I can't talk about it yet because I haven't written it yet. I'm still asking questions in regard to it, so I'm not at the point yet where I can answer any. But you know, it's going to be a very different kind of book because it's focused on one person. We're going to extremes. The leading character in the book was the state of Alaska.
Right. So you've been trying to get back here to write about Alaska for some time.
I have, yeah. Any excuse to get back here.
Well, and we're glad you're here. Yeah. Please compare your welcome in Wasilla to your early experiences, which were so good.
You know, I've got to say that the people of Wasilla have been just wonderful. I haven't had a single unpleasant encounter with anyone in Wasilla. And to the contrary, I've had complete strangers come bring me the cookies, the blueberry pie that Sarah said she was going to give to me, but she never got around to doing it.
She quit halfway through. You might get some cookie dough.
And you know, just I had more offers of handguns during that 2-week period. I couldn't meet a new person without them saying, "Do you want my Luger or my Ruger or my 38 or my 99 or what?" You know, no, none of the above. But no, Wasillans have been great, and you know, just so typically Alaskan. A complete stranger came to my door, and he said, "Here's the keys to my house. I live up in the Big Lake area. I've drawn a map. You know how to get there. I'm not going to be around much of the summer, but I want you to know that this place is yours whenever you think you might want it or need it." And he left me the keys to his house, you know, a complete stranger, you know. I actually drove up there and looked, very nice house, you know. I fortunately haven't needed it. Things died down pretty quickly. Then Doonesbury stirred them up again, but.
I heard that your Pipe Dreams article would become the basis of an upcoming Palin book, first publicized as Pipe Dreams. Did your publisher ask that Palin's name be used more prominently in the title?
There's no connection between the magazine. The magazine story was for Condé Nast Portfolio, and the book is under contract to a division of Random House, and there's just absolutely no connection.
Okay. Alaska is still the last frontier. Of what, though?
Of being up close next to a world that man can never completely rule, because nature is just bigger, stronger, and has been there longer. I think that even today in Alaska, you don't have to get very far from a Fred Meyer store in Wasilla or from Northern Lights Mall in Anchorage. You know, they said 30 years ago, they said that the best thing about Anchorage is it was only half an hour from Alaska. And I think that's still so true. Just driving to Fairbanks, as I've done a couple of times, or down to Homer, just on the road system, there's still so much just untouched, glorious wilderness that makes Alaska so special. So I think that frontier remains, and you know, people who want to cross it and and not bring their four-wheelers and mechanized vehicles and all should still be allowed to do so. And it's a place where you can escape from everything that the 21st century has turned us into.
So, Joe, do you remember what you were drinking that night in Nome?
Olympia beer out of a bottle. I wouldn't trust any bar in Nome to make a mixed drink. And the wine list was not very enticing. So I remember I just had a couple of Olies.
Oli Pops. How about some memories of Bethel looking back? Tom Foote, the Wild Goose, Bev Hoffman, the old pool hall?
Well, Tom Foote was the town librarian. He came up from San Francisco with a bunch of hippies came up from San Francisco and set up there. And the town was very opposed to their presence, and it was very difficult for a couple of years, but they blended in, and a lot of them stayed for 25 years or so. Tom was the librarian and the disc jockey on the local radio station. He actually started a show. And the only music that he played was Grateful Dead. So 16 hours a day, the only thing people in Bethel could hear on the radio was Grateful Dead. And Tom never censored any books in the library. There were some people that thought that he shouldn't be importing the books that he did, and he said, well, it's very simple. If you don't like a book that's here, don't read it. And that philosophy carried the day. He and his wife are in Fairbanks now, and I just spent a couple of nights with them in July, and doing real well. Everybody, there were six people who became couples from San Francisco, and all arrived in Bethel at the same time. And all six of those couples are still married 35 years later. And that's probably well above the national average, much less the Bethel or Alaskan average.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a man interviewed in Homer, Mr. Glover, about why he had been married to his wife for like 65, 70 years. They said, how'd you do it? And he said, I didn't die. Like there was not another option.
Yeah.
Joe, do you regret giving back $1 million to not write a book about the O.J. trial after watching the entire trial?
No, I don't regret it because I went off and had a great experience in Italy, but I think my wife regrets it. My children regret it, definitely, yeah.
But you got to write about something you loved in Italy.
Yeah, I did. And
your favorite
let's
game.
not even start on the O.J. trial because that's a whole separate show.
All right. How much dirt have you uncovered on the Palins this summer? That's not really your mission.
Dirt? What does dirt mean? I don't know.
Any shots, screams?
No comment.
Tom, do you still drive a big mobile home 10 miles an hour on Alaska's highway and back up traffic?
I want to defend myself for just a second there and say I spent a lot of time pulling off the road and letting other people go by.
Oh my God. And that's a PSA for this right now. Absolutely. Joe, were you more disillusioned with Alaska 30 plus years ago or when you came back in 2008?
I've never been disillusioned. I've been illusions, but not disillusioned. And in a way, Alaska is one grand illusion, but it's whatever you want to make of it in your mind. But I had no illusions when I first came here, so I couldn't have been disillusioned. And when I came back, I was just so excited to be back. And then for those 3 weeks, I actually had an expense account. Condé Nast put me up at the Captain Cook Hotel at a suite with the view, and that was great. But of course, the magazine went out of business the next month.
Was it you at the Cook? What's your favorite your favorite experience on this Alaska visit?
Well, I'd have to say last weekend, getting over to Halibut Cove and seeing Clem Tillion after 34 years, seeing him now at the age of 85, and being able to stay over at his house Saturday night and having a chance to talk with him on all the things that happened since I saw him for the first time. I think that's been the high point. That was really an awesome experience, and you know, he is one of the founding fathers of the state, and there are fewer and fewer of them left, and to have a chance to listen to him tell stories for a few more hours, it was a great thing.
Absolutely. The place you described in the Brooks Range where you travel through a corridor and enter a paradise, was it real? If so, did the book allow it to be exploited?
No, it is real, yeah. And as far as I know, and I stayed in touch with Park Service people, that it never became part of, it never got exploited because it was just too hard to get to. And it's hard to find. And it's the Coctat Mountain region, which you'd have to look at a whole map of the Brooks Range to try to pinpoint that. But there's never been any sign, or at least in the 10 years that I paid attention, oh, let's go up there because he wrote about that in the book, and people run in and throw candy wrappers and stuff and build a Glitter Gulch Lodge like outside Denali. Nothing like that happened. It's just, the country's just too rough.
Right, yeah, it'd be too challenging to be pilgrim to there because you read a book that you love.
It's too far away.
FYI for Shannyn. Okay, here's my Department of Corrections. Alaska Studies is now required for graduation and has been for several years. Well, good on you. Maybe they should have this book in there. Is Alaska the most interesting state you've written about?
Oh, by far. Oh, really? Please. I mean, there's no.
Welcome to everything.
Tom, did you think when Joe came up here to learn about Alaska that all these years later you would still be here?
Well, we always took it just one day at a time, but we never intended to leave.
I know, it just kind of bites you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just like, how'd you stay married for all these years? Well, I just didn't die.
She stuck around.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the examples you gave in your book of extravagance created by oil money was swimming pools in the larger rural communities. The villagers claimed that it was because of safety that they needed to learn how to swim. Do you stand by this example of extravagance still?
I don't know, statute of limitations may have run out on that one, but it strikes an outsider as an example of extravagance, but if the pools are serving a useful purpose in improving the quality of life and the chances of survival in the water of village people, then that's an extravagance that's worth being extravagant about. I don't think that, it wasn't just like wasting money like building an office building with an elevator just so you can say you got the farthest north elevator in the world. The Barrow Town Hall went from 1 to 2. There's a flight of stairs, but no. That elevator.
Now, the farthest north elevator, does it have a plaque?
They were talking about putting one, I'm not sure if it's still there or still in good repair, but it's tough to get an elevator repairman to Barrow, that's...
That would be extravagant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Joe. People can pick up Going to Extremes at your local bookstores, and tune in next week for more Up North.
Thank you, Sam.